didn't come on.
There we go. I now call the Carroll County Board of Commissioners May 3rd, 2022 meeting to order. I'm going to call on Diane in just a second if she'll do our roll call.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I've got the list here. It's Chairman Morgan.
Here.
Vice Chairman McClendon.
Here.
Commissioner Chance.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Fuller.
Here.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Here.
Commissioner Chambers.
Here.
Great, and at this time I'm going to ask Commissioner Chambers if he'll do the invocation and if Commissioner Reynolds will do our Pledge of Allegiance.
Please bow your heads with me. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening thanking you for everything that you've done for us, Lord, and all that you're going to do for us, because you are a loving, forgiving, graceful God, Lord, and we thank you so much for your love and your grace. Lord, I just pray that the things that we say and do tonight and the discussion that we have will be pleasing in thy sight, and that at the end of this meeting, Lord, that whenever we come out of it, that the decisions that are made and the thoughts that are discussed, Lord, will be led by you, be led by your convictions, Lord. And Lord, I, as always, say a special prayer for all of our men and women serving on the front lines, whether they be our first responders or be our military, Lord, that you will just continue to give them your love and your grace. And Lord, I always say a special prayer for our leadership, Lord, not only in this room, but in our state, national, and our world, Lord, because we need you now more than ever. And we just pray that you will give us guidance, direction, and your love. And it's through Jesus I pray. Amen.
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 I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like everyone to take a moment to, and please silence your cell phones. Commissioners, at this time, I ask for a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion made to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Great. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Motion passed 7-0.
Great, thank you. You also have in front of you approval of minutes, the 6-1 planning retreat minutes, the work session meeting minutes, and the special called commission meeting minutes, and executive session meeting minutes. Can I have a motion and a second to accept those?
Motion to approve items 6.1 through 6.4.
Second.
Great, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Great,
Motion carries 7-0.
great, thank you. Item 7 is public comments. Public comments are an opportunity for the public to address the commission with any issues or concerns they may have. All remarks should be directed to the chairman and not to individual commissioners, staff, or citizens in attendance. Members of the public shall not make inappropriate or offensive comments. Any individual who violates the rules of decorum may be removed from the meeting. At this time, the board will not comment, nor will the board take any action on these comments. And I'll remind all speakers are limited to 3 minutes. In the back, there was a sign-up sheet. I think I've spoken to everybody. If you were on planning and zoning, this is not the time for that. 3 minutes are on items not related to planning and zoning. So I'm going to call Kurt Kraft up first. And Kurt, even though you have put your name and address here, if you'll state your name and address when you come up, and then the timer will begin, and you'll be able to see it up here.
Kurt Kraft, 2406 Ridge Lake Drive in Billerica. I live in the part of Billerica that's otherwise known as East Berlin, Mirror Lakeside in Douglas County. Why I'm here is because of the intergovernmental agreement that y'all are going to be signing. I got it out between y'all and Billerica, and just wanted to bring up a few things that are not either on their webpage or anything, their video that they put out. The first thing was this page here. It's kind of got some green headers on it. What that is, I'll just cut to it because I only have 3 minutes. That is, in 11 to 12 years, Villa Rica had $33,860,000 in bonds that they put out for their West Sewer Plant. To date, or as of 2020, only $2 million of that was ever paid back on the principal. Lots and lots of money on the interest. But in 11 to 12 years, they still, as of 2020, owed still whatever, $30 million on that. They're coming to you, in a nutshell, to ask you to hold off on collecting taxes on any new revenue that's coming up. The one part that got me was when I looked at the agreement itself, was that it's for 50 years, up to 50 years. I've never seen an agreement that went 50 years. I mean, might as well go 100 at the way they pay stuff back in terms of debt. The other part is this picture. If you want to know an example of economic development in downtown Villa Rica, you don't need to go any further than what they call the Renaissance Strategic Vision and Plan that they put into place 6 years ago. There was at least 6 or 7 items on there, including a hotel, a conference center, all this stuff. The plan cost $40,000, and they bought, in particular, part of the plan was a welcome center called Butterballs, which was touted as the cornerstone for this plan. And as you can see, 6 years later, not only nothing has been done, but it is blight on downtown Villa Rica. Villa Rica, the city of Villa Rica owns the ugliest building in downtown Villa Rica. So they're asking you for this intergovernment agreement to hold off on taxes, and I would ask for you this evening to table that till you get all sides of the story, everything regarding the actual property itself, the history. They are coming up with this TAD because the TAD they're claiming is blight, yet this land is right across from Mirror Lake Golf Community. So how could that be blight? Plus, it's raw land. There's nothing on there, not any old factories, no brownfields or anything.
Thank
Thank you
you.
much.
Next, I have Bill Hodge.
Bill Hodge, 3267 Tyus Carrollton Road, Carrollton, Georgia, 30117. I want to spend my allotted time visiting with you and those in attendance and connected virtually about haphazard land use policy Carroll County is currently utilizing. I represent a growing number of your constituents that are quite concerned about this and cannot overemphasize the long-term harm it will do the county. But first, I want to go on public record as stating, we are not, and I repeat, are not opposed to development. It's quite understandable with our proximity to Atlanta, the county's going to grow. However, our growth needs to be smart growth. For those of you that don't understand that term, it's really quite simple. Let me refer to the Carroll County Comprehensive Plan. I know all of you are well versed on this. However, for the benefit of those here that are not, let me briefly explain. The state of Georgia requires all counties under the Georgia Planning Act to submit comp plans, smaller counties that might be joint planned with a municipality. The purpose of this is to provide a community, in our case a county, guidance on how to shape growth and development. The comp plan is developed by our Department of Community Development, hopefully with input from the public, approved by you, the Board of Commissioners, and submitted to Georgia Department of Community Affairs. It must be updated every 5 years, and ours is due for an update next year. Why is it important? Because it recommends development of current areas of the county that have the infrastructure to support the rapid growth, not scattered subdivisions in rural agricultural areas. This is currently occurring now, and it needs to be rectified. It's well documented counties in rapid growth areas that are threatened by urban sprawl. All issues stem from haphazard development due to the need for greater public safety, more educational resources, expanded infrastructure, increased recreational activities, and the list goes on and on. But most importantly, the loss of all those things that attracted people here to begin with. All these things require increased property taxes to fund them. Sadly, that's when people get upset and start showing up at these meetings. The people that I work with have available many smart growth resources, growth strategy tools at our disposal. If you'd only let us help you, the county will move forward in a direction that future generations will appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. At this time, is there anyone else who would like to come forward with some public comments? They're again not related to planning and zoning. I'll ask a second time, is there anyone here that would like to come forward to speak on public comment time? Okay, well, seeing and hearing none, we will move into the rest of our agenda. We have two special presentations tonight. The first, I'm going to ask Commissioner Montrell McClendon for the GFCA State Championship Proclamation.
Carrollton High School Debate Team 2022 GFCA State Debate Champions. Whereas the Carrollton High School Debate Team once again demonstrated superior skill in the presentation of logic and persuasiveness by winning the 2022 State Debate Championship, marking the 13th State Debate Championship win in the school's history. And whereas the Carrollton High School State Champion Debate Team includes members Grace Berquist, Olivia Berry, Audrey Browning, Sonny DeMartino, T. Hawkins, Olivia Heggie, Andy Herndon, James Hauser, Drew Johnson, Ryder Johnson, Kieran Kelly, Eden Long, Hal Mitchell, Leela Pace, Will Robertson, Kerry York, Luke Zimmer, Mark Zimmer, and whereas the Carrollton High School State Champion Debate Team is superbly coached by the experienced and resourceful head coach Richard Bracknell, and whereas by their dedication, talent, and hard work, the team and coach of the Carrollton High School State Championship Debate Team have brought honor and recognition to the school, city, and county. Now, therefore, in honor and appreciation for the accomplishments of the Carrollton High School Debate Team and the dedication and support of their coach and parents, the Carroll County Board of Commissioners does hereby congratulate and commend the 2022 Carrollton High School State Champion Debate Team for their superior performances and outstanding achievements. In witness thereof, Michelle Morgan, Chairman of the Carroll County Board of Commissioners, have hereunto set her hand and caused the seal of Carroll County, Georgia, to be affixed to this proclamation on this third day of May 2022. Congratulations, guys. You guys come down.
I'm going to ask them to come forward so we can take a picture. Ashley Holsey, our communications director over here, she will sort of help direct y'all and direct us. While they're getting organized, I do have to tell the public that is here tonight. So the debate team, only one in the state of Georgia. Only one. It does not matter how big your school is. It's not like football. There's one A, one AA, there's only one school every year that receives this. And so Richard, who also serves on the Temple City Council, I believe, is this your 13th win? Oh, well, I'm already setting you up for the next one, aren't I? Do we need the commissioners to kind of move to the side a little bit, or are you good with us? Okay, well then that's all right. I think she just told us to sit down. I don't know what she wants us to do.
I just need to know what she's asking us to do.
I think she's asking us to sit down, but,
We can do
Ashley, you want us to just sit down?
okay. I'm sorry. I know, but he's your district commissioner too. I mean. I think they deserve another round of applause. Next, something that's very near and dear to my heart, the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and the building outside has banners recognizing that, plus this building is lit up at green at night. So we have a proclamation, Mental Health Awareness Month 2022. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas all citizens of Carroll County experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives, and whereas promotion and prevention is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental health conditions, and where there is a strong body of research that supports specific tools that all Americans can use to better handle the challenges and promote their health and well-being, and whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent, and whereas with early and effective treatment, those individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead full, productive lives. Whereas the work of the Carroll County Mental Health Advocates is invaluable to our community, and we commend their efforts to providing care to our individuals and families impacted by mental illness and addiction. Now therefore, I, Michelle Morgan, Chairman of the Carroll County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Carroll County. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Carroll County, Georgia, to be affixed to this proclamation on this third day of May, 2022. And I'd like to ask if our probate judge, Edie Haney, she's here, and our executive director, Jody Goodman, to come forward. And if there's anybody else from the board, if they would like to come forward too. And at this time, I'm just going to ask the commissioners to stand right here, and we'll come forward and present them the proclamation, and ask you to take a picture again. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
I better have that side, huh?
Does that mean we're dismissed?
I suppose.
Okay, at this time, I'll move into the zoning session. I'm going to call Janet Hyde, our county planner, to come forward. Let me go over the rules. The applicant or anyone speaking in favor of the application or request shall be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present their request. Anyone opposed to the request shall also have a total of 10 minutes to present their opposition. If there are multiple speakers for or against the application, I'm asking you each to be mindful of the others so that they can speak, if anyone else wishes to do so. Anyone speaking for or against the application shall also be allowed a total of 5 minutes to speak in rebuttal. So there again, it's not 10 minutes per person, it's 10 minutes in favor, no matter if there's one person or 10 people, 10 minutes for rebuttal, 10 minutes for opposition, and then 5 and 5. So Janet, I'm going to turn it over to you at this point.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. The first item that I have for you all tonight is a conditional use for a second dwelling. The applicant is Louise Edie. This is parcel number 051-0012. The address is 28 Whitten Road. And the Edies are asking for permission to add a second house to the property. If you'll see in your packet, it's the X on the north side of Whitten Road on the map. That's where they want to put the house. Staff recommended approval of this. Planning Commission also recommended approval. And the Edie family is present. Mr. Edie.
Well, it's my niece that's wanting to build a house there, and she helps take care of my mother. She's 88, and the older she gets, the more she's gonna need care. And it was just, we was asking for 2 acres just to cut it out. And the county said they didn't have no problem as long as y'all agreed with it.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor with you? It's okay if they're not, just is there anybody else?
No.
Okay. Okay. At this time, then, I will ask, is there anyone here to speak against this application? I'll ask a second time, is there anyone here to speak against this application? Well, seeing and hearing none, we'll forego the rebuttal time. At this point, I will ask the commissioners, do any of y'all have any questions for staff or the applicant?
Motion to approve the application.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Motion to approve passes 7-0.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Edie.
Thank you.
Okay, Janet, I'm going to call you back again for 9.2.
The next item that I have is a conditional use for a cell phone tower The applicant is Brian Devine of General Dynamics as a representative of Verizon Wireless. The owner of the property is Jeffrey Chambers. The location is Stony Point Road, and the parcel number is 051-0055 and 051-0043. And the reason we're showing two parcel numbers is because they did some reconfiguring of the property lines. Planning Commission recommended approval of this. Staff is also recommending approval of this. And Mr. Chambers or Mr. Devine, I'm not sure if they're present. Yes. Go on.
Okay, I just want to make sure a correction. This is in District 5 or District 6?
This is in District 6.
Okay, because on the paperwork here it says District 5.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure we know which,
It is 6, yes.
okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brian Devine, and I'm here on behalf of Verizon. They're proposing to build this cell tower in the location Ms. Hyde just mentioned. And I just wanted to touch real briefly on the need for the tower. This is what Verizon would refer to as a service gap fill-in site, which basically means that because of the distance from the surrounding towers, the signal in this area is so weak that it's very difficult to make a call, and you're definitely not going to be able to use data in this area. So this tower is intended to basically fill in the hole and make the network usable in this area.
Great. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application with you?
I'm not sure if Mr. Chambers might be here.
You don't have to speak, I'm just asking.
I'm in place.
Okay.
We need to serve.
So at this time, I'll ask, is there anyone here to speak in rebuttal or against this application? I'll ask a second time, is there anyone here to speak against this application? Well, seeing and hearing none, we won't have to go into the rebuttal time. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff or the applicant?
Excuse me, I have a question for Mr. Devine with Verizon. You do understand that if you add any additional equipment or upgrade anything, that you would go through the proper permit process, so all the tax valuations will be properly noted through the tax assessor's office of community development, correct?
Yes. Verizon does that sort of thing all the time, and they always make sure that they comply with the permitting requirements.
Thank you.
What is the height of the tower?
The height of the tower, without the lightning rod, is 250 feet.
And there's adequate standoff distance around it?
Yes. As Ms. Hyde mentioned, it's in compliance with the zoning code and all of the setbacks that are required.
Okay.
I'll look for a motion and a second from the board.
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Again, is there any further questions or concerns for the staff or the applicant? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Motion to approve carries 7-0.
Great, thank you. Thank you. 9.3, I'll call Janet back to the podium.
Madam Chair, on this particular item, I have an immediate family that is taking an interest in this particular item. I have spoken with legal counsel who has looked up the statutes regarding this. Technically, the verbiage is not there that mandates me to recuse myself because it's not technically a rezoning, but understanding the intent of the statute, it was the recommendation, and I am agreeing that I do need to recuse myself from this item for any discussion or vote on the matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Chance.
So the next item that I have for you all is a conditional use for expansion of a special event venue. The applicants are Clint and Amberly Nally of the Barn at Nally Properties. The parcel number is 150-0003. This is on Hickory Level Road in Billerica. The Nallys are asking to expand an event venue that was approved by you all back in 2019. And the original barn you have on your map, and I gave you a color-coded sheet here. The original barn was on the 5 acres that's colored in green. Their house is on the parcel in blue, and the expansion barn, the new application that they've applied for, is in yellow, and that's on the 15-acre tract. And Planning Commission, staff recommended denial of this, and I'll go into the reason for that in just a second, but Planning Commission recommended approval of this. And staff took a look at the application for this and felt like this expansion, if granted, would create almost a commercial feel to the property, and it would be outside of what the intent of that ordinance had been. The intent, I guess, and you all, most of y'all were on that board, but some of you were not, so I'll explain it. It was to provide an outlet for farmers to have an additional income after the recession so that they could, and I'll expand on this for the public, but so that they could rent out their barn when they weren't using it and use it for wedding venues. And so the ordinance itself says that you have to have an existing barn or an agricultural area. So it was written in that way in order for, like I said, for farmers to have an additional outlet. And staff took a look at this venue, and having 2 barns, felt like that it did not meet the spirit of that ordinance and would actually seem like more of a commercial venture. So we recommend denial of that. And like I said, Planning Commission recommended approval. And I'm going to let Mr. Skipper speak further on that.
Chairman, Board of Commissioners, and the audience, can we all hear me? I was going to just run through a few facts because I think with everything, there's a little bit of miscommunication, and all I'm trying to do is just kind of establish the set of facts before we get started, and everybody's 10 minutes get started too. So the original application was approved back in August of 2019 for the Nally family. And at that meeting, there was discussed, would the venue stop at 10? Would it stop at different times? But at that meeting, the Board of Commissioners approved a stop time in concurrence with the county noise ordinance, which would be midnight. So that is what was approved. But I know I've had several questions from neighbors that they thought it was 10 or different time, but I just kind of wanted to establish that before we get started, that the current stop time is midnight, and that was approved in August of 19. At the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission got into a lot of details regarding septic systems, fire inspections, occupancy loads, and that all comes after an applicant has been approved for such a use. And the reason that is because it requires them to hire soil scientists, possibly, requires them to hire maybe an engineer to come out and inspect the building. So before that cost gets added to an applicant, the first question is can you do it? So that is why the county does not require that firsthand. That comes afterwards, which is in the permitting section. So if the Board of Commissioners was to choose to approve this application, then my office would send building inspectors, environmental health would send septic tank inspectors. And what I mean by that, the original building was built for a residence. A gentleman lived there while he was building another house. So the septic system is designed for that individual at that time. Now, obviously, there will be more people using that system, and that system will be upgraded. But that would be determined after we have an occupancy load, the fire inspections have come out, make sure, as you can see here, exit signs, ADA bathrooms, walkways. So all of those things that are typically not at your residence would be added after the fact. So I just didn't want, people to kind of maybe get into the weeds of, is that there yet? We're not requiring that yet, so I just wanted to establish that. Also, there's been questions regarding any existing weddings going on there. I also haven't told anybody who I am. I'm sorry, Chairman. I'm Ben Skipper. I'm the Community Development Director, and I'm over codes. At the time this came into codes, there were some weddings that were booked. I granted those weddings because I myself has been married. And if my wife had been told within a week or a month that our wedding had been canceled and we had to go somewhere else, she's a military brat. And what that means is family was coming from Germany, Hawaii, Kansas, California, Georgia. She would have lynched me. So I understand the panic and the sensitivity of what was going on. So what I asked the Nallys to do is those that were booked, you can have them until tonight. And then when zoning decides the outcome, the Board of Commissioners, then we would deal with that at that time. So just to kind of get those facts out and how we got on first, this is how we got on first. So if there's any other questions that I can't think of right now, I think I may have addressed them all. Avery? One other thing, they purchased 15 acres from Mr. Harrell, added it to a 5-acre tract, so that puts them at 20.67 acres, which puts them at the 150 guests. 25 acres and larger, you can go to 250 guests. So just kind of want to get that, there's the threshold. 25 acres and larger, or 25 acres and less. They're currently at 20.67 acres. And they have combined those tracts to get one tax bill. So if there's anybody in the audience that's ever owned more than one piece of property and you get multiple tax bills, if the properties are adjoining, the county assessor's office will allow you to combine those to get one tax bill. Anything else?
Thank you, Ben.
All right, we'll let everybody get started now.
So if the applicant would like to come forward.
Hello, my name is Amberly Nally, and I'm here with my husband Clint Nally. He's going to set up a map for you guys. We live at 2715 Northeast Hickory Level Road with our 4 children. We were both born and raised in the Hickory Level community, and we couldn't think of a better place to raise our family. We are passionate about bringing positive impacts to the City of Gold. We are coming before you today to request an expansion of our conditional use permit for our second structure on the property. This will be an option for couples. It will either be Barn A or Barn B. It is not 2 weddings at one time. Both barns accommodate the same number of guests based on the small conditional use permit that we are not allowed any more than 150. Since opening in 2019 as a venue, we serve the community in many areas. We offer our venue to surrounding schools, churches, and public safety officials for free. We strive to offer a top-notch service. We have learned a lot over the last 2 years. If you will look at the map, our closest neighbor is 600 feet, and our furthest neighbor is 2,000 feet. We monitor our noise decibel with a decibel reader and a noise limiter, which limits the music and turns it off if it exceeds that decibel. We have signed contracts from our brides stating that, and in the packet you will find that. That is monitored by us and our local law enforcement that is on staff during every wedding that we have. The police also help expedite traffic. We normally have 40 to 50 cars at a wedding with 150 guests, and they arrive in a 1-hour time frame, never backing up traffic onto Hickory Level Road. There's a letter in your packet from Officer Batera, who is a captain at the City of Villa Rica, on his personal opinion of the operations. Myself and my husband are along staff at all events, and we are always there. We have 3 entrances to the property that you can see on the map that doesn't allow for backups. Our families live on site, so safety for our community is top priority. Our goal has always been to keep our property beautiful and keep the same agricultural appearance that we fell in love with when we purchased it in 2016. Earl Nally cuts this property for hay, and on average, both properties, we will get 15,000 bales 3 times a year. I'm sorry, 1,500. We use that hay to feed our 50 head of cattle that we have a half a mile up the road on our family's land. We have letters from several homeowners that our properties touch directly on the east, west, and north and south side. These include properties on Estates Drive, The state of the noise and the traffic has never been a problem, and we feel like it brings value to the area. We have several people here today to show your support, if you would like to stand. And we also have some people to speak on our behalf. This is Jackie.
Hello, my name is Jackie Lucas. I reside at 27 Estates Drive. I've lived there since 2019, October of 2019. And I just wanted to state that any events that the Nallies have had since I have resided there, they have not disturbed me or my family. The birds and the cars going down Hickory Level Road are actually a lot louder than the vague sound of the music. And when you go inside in my house, you cannot hear the music from the Nally properties.
Hello, my name is Russell Floyd. My wife Shannon and our 2 kids live directly across from the Nallies at 2678 Northeast Hickory Level Road. We purchased our home on a 40-acre horse farm a couple years ago, appreciating that there was a wedding venue next door. We share nearly a quarter mile of open, visible property boundary, and we are most impacted by what is being discussed here this evening. We consider the venue to be an asset to the community, and it guarantees the most visible property adjacent to ours will be kept looking top-notch. This stretch of Hickory Level Road is what you all want the county to look like, but it doesn't come easy or cheap. The venue supports and drives a standard that myself and some of our neighbors are motivated to try and match. We strive to represent the community well, and it is something to be proud of. We've never had any problems with noise or traffic, and it always clears out by 10 p.m. If I did have a problem, I would go speak to Clinton Amberley directly about it. I believe they are good and reasonable people, and they would address any concerns brought to their attention. They have a lot of money and hard work invested and aren't going to jeopardize that investment by being unreasonable with their neighbors. I understand there's some debate about allowing these venues in agricultural zoned areas. Well, no one wants to get married in an industrial park. The natural beauty of our county is what draws visitors who end up spending money in local restaurants, hotels, not to mention the venue itself. This is the kind of rural economic development we want that actually facilitates and encourages keeping Carroll beautiful. We support the Nellie zoning request and are in favor of their new venue.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. I'm Bob Fountain. I'm at the Hickory Level community, and I live at 4255 South Hickory Level Road, Carrollton, 30116. I appreciate the opportunity to appear here tonight. I will be brief, and I will cut my comments to the core. Several of you know that I serve as president of Hickory Level community, but given the split in the community on this situation, I appear here tonight on my own personal time, not as a representative of Hickory Level community. However, prior to appearing here and returning off of vacation, I received a couple of complaint calls about this facility. Given my military experience, I rarely will conform to complaints issued if I have an opportunity to do my own research. I was notified that there'd be a wedding on April 22nd, 2022, and the wedding would terminate at about 6:30 and the reception would begin. I took it upon myself to take my NOS sound meter with me, and I drove to Estates Drive. I drove to the end of Estates Drive to where the gravel begins at the corner of the property of 58 Estates Drive. There I began noise sampling of the noise emitted from the facility during the wedding reception. For reference, the noise in this room right now is running 73 to 83 decibels as I'm speaking to you. I measured the outside reading around my vehicle at night to get a baseline. It measured 35.5 to 40 decibels. At 7:17, the owner and resident of 58 Estates Drive, which was approximately 100 to 150 feet away, came out with a blower and started blowing his driveway. The decibel reading went from 45.7 to 49.5 decibels. At 7:25, I departed that vicinity and drove to the Nally barn where the wedding was actually occurring. At 100 to 150 feet, the noise level emitted from the barn, with the doors open and the crowd having the music playing, measured 45.4 to 51 decibels, which was less than it was with the blower running on Estates Drive. At 7:55, I approached the Nallys and asked them to take me to the new barn venue. They took me up there where I noticed a sound system which also had a sound decibel meter attached to it. I asked them to turn the sound to maximum volume. It registered 109 decibels. Keeping in mind that the law requires that a freight train have a horn that has a minimum sound decibels of 98 and a maximum of 109. The sound in the barn was 109. I went outside approximately 15 feet from the building with the doors closed. The decibel reading was 69 decibels. A chapel located on the facility between the barn and the property of the residents of Estates Drive, which is approximately 300 feet. I went to that location, measured again, and I got a decibel reading of 46.3. Again, less than what would be the blower blowing off the driveway. From my unbiased research I conducted, that given the distance of 450 to 550 feet from the barn venue to Estates Drive, the noise level would be less than that of a resident blowing off his driveway with a blower. For that reason, and based on my information, I could find no reason, factual reason, to justify not issuing the permit. Now, the residents that live there and file the permits may in fact have a valid reason. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to cut you off. The time just went off.
Yes, ma'am.
But if, during the 5-minute rebuttal time, if the applicants would like you to come back and finish, you can do so then.
I was through, Madam
Okay.
Chairman. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. So at this time, we will have 10 minutes for rebuttal. Is there anyone here who would like to, 10 minutes to speak against the application. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak?
Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak today. I have to start first with an introduction. My name is Jan Scarborough. I do live on Estates Drive, where it's 45 decibels right now if there's not a leaf blower going. I want you to hear, just because I thought this might come up, what a impact drill driver sounds like from across the street and across another home when they're improving a chapel. I think I'm in silent mode at the request of someone important. Probably don't have the benefit of the amplification that you get from other means. The fact that I could hear it in my yard, though, I think illustrates that that noise is not as loud as probably amplified music coming from another barn. I understand the gentleman who was here had the NIOSH meter. I got one too. We kind of know how to work these apps now. It's been louder than that, or we wouldn't be here, promise you. To move on. My home is 1,590 feet away from the special event center that exists now and 600 feet from the proposed. My occupation is a general contractor. I'm licensed in the state of Georgia for residential and light construction. My folder I provided you includes resident turnover, which I thought was peculiar and more than coincidental. I believe this application is a misapplication of the ordinance that the chair and the committee has made available to farmers under extenuating circumstances, maybe during acts of God, when weather, even if it's controlled by humans or what have you, we are getting more storms, we get hail, we get more rain, less rain, some droughts. That destructive weather could affect crops and could affect livestock. There's no doubt about it. I think anything that we can do to allow the farmers who produce those things and make their living that way, we should make those allowances possible and continue to do so that they don't go bankrupt. In August of 2000, I retired from the military after 24 years of moving constantly. My family and I sought the peace and tranquility of this rural countryside. My wife was raised in Villa Rica and I in Douglas County. We moved here for solitude and serenity that we remembered. In 2002, the Department of Veterans Affairs issued me a medical health disability for several ailments, including service-connected hearing damage to include tinnitus, which if you have it, you know is a ringing in your ears that you can't ignore sometimes, and it's very irritating. It could be said that the country nearby and the farmland was just what the doctor ordered, so to speak. But my condition isn't helped by the occasional loud noises as close as 1,500 feet over the past year. In 2003, our youngest son, James, was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, which along with other symptoms, he experiences physical discomfort with loud noises and has at times experienced sleep disruptions. As you might imagine, loud noises on nights and weekends only serve to aggravate this condition. So we chose this area because it provided what we needed most. At the time, we needed it most. Now it's being threatened again. After all the years of military noise, the agricultural community in Hickory Level feels like home, but it feels like it's under attack. The application does address an expansion of a special venue. Actually, it's calling itself a barn, but this single-family home, since it was built, was a high-end barndominium. I, as a general contractor and custom home builder, I know what a barndominium is. I built one. I built an 8,000 square foot one made out of brick before. I built 2 churches in Carroll County. So I'm pretty familiar with building codes. As I look at the review criteria and standards for considering conditional use permits, these are common to me. I know what I have to do. I have to jump through a hoop to get something for somebody, and I'll go to extremes to do that. But I can't bend those rules. Those rules are in black and white for a reason. There is some allowance for deviation, but usually like safety rules, those things which were written in blood, they're there for a reason. My biggest concern, and at the previous hearing, there were 9 of these categories. I think it's A through M. I haven't counted how many that is. Two of the commissioners had questions about them, and they seem to be swept over quickly. I would like for you to take the time that's do these, especially H, whether or not there are some special or unique conditions, which I'm not aware of, which overcome the Board of Commissioners' general presumption that residential neighborhoods should not allow non-compatible business uses, such as barndominium uses. I've not yet walked into a barn, I've not been in all of them, where you need panic bars on doors, emergency lighting for when you have a lack of electricity, emergency exits. These are the things I put in churches. I would expect no less in another large facility where you might house 200 to 300 people. I would like for somebody to inspect this structure, but not after the fact. I mean, it kind of sounds like we're going to wing it. I've never been allowed to wing it. I always had to have my ducks in a row. We're told that the traffic's not going to be affected by it. There's rumor that 4.89 acres behind these 20.6, I believe, has been purchased or is fixing to be purchased. Whether or not that's true or not, I'd like for the stipulation to be that 4.89 acres couldn't be combined in this property. Can you see the math why that might be problematic? Can you imagine a place that's been authorized for 120 cars, 120 people going to 300 people? We're talking about that same septic system that was sized for 2 bedrooms and 1 bath. It's only 150 feet long, got 1,000. Every time I close in the garage, I got to add another 1,000-gallon tank, another 150 feet. It's the right thing to do, obviously. I found on the Villa Rica Touchdown Club website, they're apparently on May 7th, that's Saturday, at the barn at Nelly Properties, 300 people planning to attend a silent auction. I'm all for fundraisers, especially for a good purpose, and this seems like a right one. But I believe this exceeds the current permission they've received. I'm concerned about that because it shows noncompliance and non-interest in the current restrictions. The activity of neighbors nearby concerns me. You have in your folder these 6 parcels, when they've moved, how many feet they were. You've been given testimony already today before I stood up here that the nearest and dearest are happy. The nearest and dearest have moved. I have a letter right here I received today. I'll read it. To whom it may concern, I understand the county commissioner's hearing scheduled for tonight. I'm unable to attend due to previous commitment. I would, however, like to share my personal experiences with you here. I believe the current venue has already had a negative impact. We live next door at, I will keep that, you have a copy of it, from March 17 to March 20. While we lived there, the various events did at times become quite disruptive. The noise became a nuisance for my family on nights and weekends especially. My husband would sometimes work unusual hours, and oftentimes he could not sleep without a box fan on. The traffic coming and going became heavy at times. It was annoying and a safety concern for us too. For these reasons, I offer my recommendation to deny the request. Mr. Fountain did not have the ability to hear what they heard. And I yield the rest of my time.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak against the application?
I'm Beverly Chance. I live at 100 Estates Drive. We've owned the property for over 25 years. We raise livestock there. We want to start off to say we have absolutely nothing personal against the Nallies. Nothing at all. We just won't want their property to be commercialized. Their property's beautiful. Everybody keeps saying it's beautiful, and it is a beautiful piece of property. And it was beautiful when the previous owner built and lived in what they're now turning into a venue. They already had one venue that we didn't attempt to stop. We just let it go. It's down below their property in what I call a valley. So we still hear that. We hear noise. We hear hooping and hollering. We hear music. But it was tolerable. But this new venue is going to be a lot closer to us, up on top of the hill, and will carry the sound. So I've emailed commissioners everything I'm fixing to say that was said at the P&Z meeting. The Nallies were asked about Sunday events. They said no, they would never have Sunday events. Well, I've pulled up advertising that they have specials running for the large and the small venue.
Beverly, I'm sorry to have to cut you off, but you will get 5 minutes for rebuttal. So
now or later?
In just a second, we're going to let the applicants come back for 5 minutes and then. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this time I'll bring the applicants back for their 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Nick Leonard. I'm a live event production specialist. I work with concert lighting and sound on a regular basis and have to stick to noise ordinances and use decibel meters to measure the program and keep volumes of concerts on a regular basis. So what I'm going to do right now is play some peak noise. What that basically does is gives you the full spectrum of all the audio frequencies. So it's basically like playing really loud music. And we're going to play it louder than we would normally play it. It's going to cut around 86 decibels regulated. And I'll show you that. And then we're going to go outside and see how loud that is for people around the building. comfortable. Like it would hurt my ears if I was in the building, and I would never run it that loud. I don't know anybody that would. We're probably, I would guess, 300 feet from the building at this point. Oh, wait, let me start back up. Okay. And the meter's not even reading anything at this point. I'll have to change my level settings. What we did is play pink noise, which is a generated noise that's always at the same level through the speaker, and I turned it up fairly loud. We had it around 86 decibels inside of the room. When we went outside, by the time we got about 100 feet from the building, the noise was almost inaudible. We were probably around 50, I believe the measurement said 58 or 60, depending on at what point we measured. I was using a calibrated decimal meter. This is it. It has been calibrated. We were measuring A-weighted decibels. Then we played music. We opened all the garage doors and made basically a worst-case scenario. I turned the music up very loud. It was around 90 to 95 decibels, and that was average, not peak. Peak was probably around 97 to 98 decibels inside the room. By the time we got 100 feet away, it was close to 70 decibels. And then when we walked about 300 feet away, it had gone down to the point that you could barely hear it at all. It was close to 40 decibels on the decibel meter, which is about the same volume as the nature that was around us. And to my ears, mostly what I was hearing was nature sound. I wasn't hearing the music very much. Amberly expressed that after measuring, the closest neighbor is close to 600 or 700 feet away. For every doubling of distance, the sound level goes down another 6 decibels. So we're well below 40 decibels by the time you get to the neighbors' houses, which is extremely low level. That's nowhere close to as loud as a lawnmower would be or a car driving down the road. It's just almost inaudible.
We have been in business for 3 years. We've learned a lot over our 3 years, and we have put different stipulations in place. In the 3 years, we have never been notified of any complaints from our community, our neighbors, or the county. I have a copy of that if anybody wants to review it. Again, this is not the barns at Nally Properties. This is still one barn, one choice, one option. Option A, our original barn. Option B, our new barn, which is climate controlled and has spray foam insulation. This could easily, if we ever decided not to use it, be converted back to a equestrian barn. There's plenty of people that have high dollar horses. There's a guy that lives right down the road, and he has a climate controlled equestrian barn for his horses. The 4.89 acres that we don't even own yet, that we have looked into purchasing, that would never be used for the venue. We have no need for that to use as an entrance or an exit for the venue. We have 3 driveways that are 600 feet long, each of them. We strive to offer top quality services and give back to our community. If for whatever reason our community has any issues or concerns with operations of the barn at any given time, they would be immediately addressed and handled. The auction on Saturday for our Villa Architects Drum Club, there is 300 tickets sold, but those tickets are to get them a chance for the drawing to win the raffle money. It's not the actual people in attendance. We will have around 100 to 20 people, 120 to 130 people in attendance at that event.
Sorry to cut you off, but the
Thank
5
you.
minutes are up. Thank you. Okay, so at this time, we'll have the 5 minutes rebuttal, and I'll bring Ms. Chance back if she'd like to finish.
But the advertising says capacity of 300. So, they were asked if they had stopped advertising. They said yes, but I sent you the commissioners something that's dated April 1st where they have the chapel and the large venue advertised. That was before they took it down after the last meeting off their site. They also advertise year-round weddings, corporate events, and parties. They were asked about renovations. They said they painted, but you can clearly see the transition from an open shed to a wedding chapel and a large barn.
I'm Donald Chance. I also live at 100 Estates Drive. I've lived at this location for over 20 years. We live in the country because, you know, we live there for peace and solitude. There are 2 venues already in the community, less than a mile apart. I can hear both of them. I certainly do not want 2 more venues added. That would be 3 venues on the same property. Small barn, big barn, outdoor chapel. Traffic, okay, it's a concern for me also. It's hard enough to get out of Estates Drive, you know, right now, okay. Numerous wrecks have occurred in that curve before you get to this location, okay, where Estates Drive enters Hickory Level Road. Traffic has already increased from people using Hickory Level Road as a cut through from Carroll, you know, to Carrollton or Temple. Wedding events, and particularly, you know, everyone arrives close to the same time and exits at the same time. This would also add to the traffic concern. Loud music, people cheering, you know, in celebration, okay. We do not want to contend with weddings, corporate events, and parties year-round. And this is what they are advertising currently on their website for booking dates of 2022 in a facility that has not been approved yet. Okay. This concerns me, and I'm 100% opposed to it. And sound at night is a whole lot different than, you know, during the daytime. I'll make that comment. Thank you for listening.
So we have about 2 minutes and 15 seconds left. If there's anyone else that'd like to speak, add with the rebuttal.
Al's a Marine, I'll run.
Okay.
I can appreciate what you've done. I can. Gone to great lengths. I have 2 more things here. There are 15 names on here. 7 of them are present, and there are a few who are here that didn't sign. These are just people who oppose it for noise, traffic, and the general rezoning of it, turning it into something other than what it was designed for. I have a letter from another couple. They're concerned about traffic, safety, nuisance and noise, groundwater contamination, agricultural versus commercial. And lastly, additionally, in another, man, I need glasses. In several impromptu meetings over the last few months and with our closest neighbors, we've learned of similar noise pollution concerns of them. I'm sorry if I repeat myself. An adjoining neighbor who raises beef cattle shared with me the damage he noticed to his property line and livestock perimeter fencing due to what he said appeared like children climbing on his wire. I don't know how I guess cattle don't climb wire. But anyway, it was next to the venue. It became compromised and he had to repair and replace a decent length of it recently. He mentioned he worried not only about that, but the personal injury risk, all right, that might ensue from an unsupervised child gaining access to one of his pastures when a bull or new mama and her calf are present. I didn't know that was a risk. The certainty of personal liability and litigation for injury damages levied against all concerned parties who share the boundary is unimaginable. Also, I'm concerned about the competitiveness of it. Does this create an unfair competitive advantage for commercial venues in the city limits or outside that are held to much stricter requirements with regard to taxing, permitting, all that, you know, routine inspections, replacement of fire extinguishers, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity again. We appreciate you.
We have about 21 seconds left if there's anyone who'd like to speak in rebuttal. You have to come to the microphone, please. I think there's...
My name is Jeff Glenn. Live at 2122 Hickory Level. Married to Susan. She was an alley, but the only thing I got to say is we live on that road. The motorcycles coming up and down our road make a heck of a lot more noise. And what about the traffic at the end of our road where they're clearing behind a Home Depot. Are you gonna be able to stop traffic and progress from coming? No, but these two young folks are doing the best they can do, trying to
Okay,
make
excuse
something
me.
good.
This is the rebuttal time, not.
You asked me if I had anything.
No, I know. I meant I'm still on the I'm still on the 5-minute rebuttal. You are correct, but this is the 5-minute rebuttal time. So we've got 21 seconds, and you are here to speak against the application.
My name's Gary Holtzclaw, and I've lived there about 18 years, and I'm 423 feet from that barn. I don't have a problem with having weddings, but I'm concerned about the shutdown times. I wouldn't have a problem if it was shut down at like 10:30.
Great.
Beyond that, I would.
Thank you. Commissioners, before I ask for any comments, questions for staff or the applicant, can we take just a moment and read the paperwork that was given to us? Okay. Commissioners, at this time, do you have any questions for staff or the applicant?
I have some questions for Ben or Janet.
Ben, if you'll come forward. Commissioner Lee has some questions for you and Janet, please. Yes, so if you'll please come forward.
Yes.
Ben, the upgrade with the additional barn is approaching commercial size, is this correct? For a commercial size venue? It's not actually meeting our criteria that we set up to start with. It's actually going above what we had set up to start with. Is this correct? The amount of people.
You're asking me, is it going to be?
Is it approaching commercial size?
It would be getting close. Well, I haven't gone into it yet, and in the fire department, we haven't done an approximate seating yet. It's going to be close.
Yeah.
But, you know, the amount of seating put in is going to dictate some of that. So, but.
Okay, and it doesn't meet the criteria of what we set the zoning up for to begin with. Is that correct? With the additional barn?
Staff's feeling was that the original ordinance when it was drafted was meant to supplement a farmer's income.
Right.
And while it didn't specify the number of barns you could have on your property that you could use for venues, I guess the feeling of staff was that once you have more than one that you're going to use for a venue, then you start approaching a commercial type venture.
Well, I've had a lot of calls against and had a few for. The problem that I have had is I'm getting calls that all we're doing is setting up nightclubs in the county for people to have a nightclub in the county, and this is getting very upsetting to a lot of people. We got 19 in the county now without this.
Yes.
And the only reason to upgrade, I guess I need to ask the owner this, the only reason to go to a bigger barn is you just want more capacity, more people coming in, more functions?
No, sir, that is not at all. Like I stated before, we still will be under the 150 people. That we are limited to 150 guests. So our reasoning for purchasing this had nothing to do with being able to allow more guests or have a bigger facility. It was for us to be able to just be able to offer a climate-controlled facility. For older people, it gets hot. You know, your grandma's in there and she's sweating. In the one that we have now, it was just to be able to offer an additional option for people for if they wanted a climate-controlled versus a non-climate control.
And actually advertising before you have your permits, that's kind of
So,
saying, hey, we don't care.
Totally a misunderstanding, and I think I can explain that if y'all give me a second. So we did ask Janet prior about, and it was a total misunderstanding from Janet's side and our side. We asked Janet if we could combine the parcels, and she told us yes. We would still be under the 25 acres. So us not knowing and not asking the right questions, we thought that that gave us our expansion. Our original conditional use stated that we could not, if we built another structure on the property, it had to be 50 feet of the property line. So this met that standard. And that if we ever sold our property, they would have to get a new conditional use. So we pulled our conditional use permit and stating that we couldn't have a structure 50 feet from the property line. And with that statement, we felt that we were covered. We purchased this property in December. We did not find out from Miss Janet until March 7th, around the 4th or the 7th, that we would have to file for a new conditional use permit. So nothing that we did we did intentionally. We did it based off, I guess, not knowing and not asking the correct questions to Miss Janet. At that time, we did post on our social media, coming 2022. That was the advertising. It did say, coming 2022. It was a picture, and in the picture, our neighbor's camper is still sitting in that barn. So it was no new pictures. The inside had not been remodeled and ready. That was not done until the last week of March. We had already, the weddings that we had March the 2nd was a wedding that was booked and paid for on January 28th of 2021. They were paid for our little barn. When they knew that we purchased the big barn, we did allow our brides to look at the new venue, even though it was not, it was empty. And this bride wanted to move up there to the climate-controlled barn. So when we found this out, March 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, we went to Janet and told her, like, we have a wedding that was already planned for up there, and she did allow us to have it. So that was the event that we had. We did have permission from Mr. Ben and Miss Janet to have that event.
Well, y'all have a beautiful place there. It's really nice. It really is. But it's, to me, it's approaching, as we say, commercial, more traffic, more people coming in. And I do know that in those venues that there's alcohol involved, which you know, that's going to happen.
We do. We have alcohol at some weddings, and if they have alcohol, they do have to come to the county and get their own alcohol permit for their day. We only do one wedding a weekend. They get the venue on Friday to decorate. Their wedding is on Saturday. That is the only time. In years past, we did have Sunday weddings. We only ever had probably 3 ever in the 3 years that we've been in business. We are not doing any Sunday weddings this year because it's too much work for us and we need a day off. Police are present. We use the City of Villa Rica Police Department at every event that they have to be present if they are going to have alcohol there. We did have a recommendation from a neighbor on Estates Drive that spoke with Clint and told him that daughter had a wedding at a venue similar to ours. And if they had over 100, they had to have 2 police officers. And Clint told him that that was a great, something that we had not thought of, and we were open to that suggestion. Of course, people that are older always are wiser. Yeah, the same guy opened a suggestion maybe to the entrance, using maybe a different entrance, one of the other entrances instead of the one closest to Estates Drive, because it's 450 feet from the curb, and that is also, like we said, a great option that we had not thought of, and we are up for any recommendations that our neighbors have. The noise ordinance is midnight. That's what you guys, and we didn't even know that we were still at midnight because we told them at our last conditional use that we would stop noise at 10 p.m. So that is what we do for all of our couples. Our music and guests have to leave at 10 p.m. Our family lives there too. Yep, one of the owners recommended 9, and Clint said he wasn't opposed to that at the new venue as well. So, like I said, we're open to suggestions. The thing is, we did purchase this property thinking that we would be able to give it an option. It's not, I know people keep saying more people, more traffic, more things. It's not. It's still one venue, one event at a time, same amount of traffic, same amount of people, even though it's climate controlled.
That's all the questions I have.
Commissioners, do any of y'all have questions for staff or the applicant at this time?
I would like to ask a couple questions of staff, or Janet or Ben. I have a similar situation in my district.
Okay, now that I've had a few minutes to gather my thoughts and to answer your question, is this going to be a commercial building?
It will be.
The answer to that is yes. And one of the other concerns from one of the adjoining neighbors was kind of an after the fact. No, it's a permitting situation of a change of occupancy. It's no different than in a strip mall adjacent to Walmart. It's Payless Shoes. Payless Shoes goes out of business, and then it turns into a Subway. That is a change of occupancy now. When they come in and re-permit it, we'll go and inspect it for the use at hand, which will include grease traps, other commercial sinks, commercial hoods for any cooking. I know Subway's not, but let's say it was just a restaurant. So you're gonna have a commercial hood, there'll be a commercial fire suppression system to address all of those uses for the permitted use at that time. The barn was permitted as an agricultural barn, and that's what we inspected. That's what it was used for. They have bought it, they want to make a venue out of it. If approved, they'll have to permit that, and that'll be a change of use, and then the fire, building codes, environmental health, we will re-inspect it for a change of use. So, sorry, it just took me a few minutes to
It just brings it to the commercial.
but yes, it will go to commercial, which will be the fire exits, ADA, because it's now open to the public. So maybe that's a better way to explain it. Private use, public use. Public use must meet all the federal and state codes for being commercial, ADA, handicap accessible, fire code, all the such. So, sorry for the delay.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Okay.
All 19 barns in Carroll County have been inspected for commercial use. So let me just add to that. So all 19 went out and we re-inspected them for commercial use. All of them.
I just, regardless of exit signs or septic systems or whatever, I think all that's ancillary moot point information. What I'm trying to get at is back to the basic fundamental premise of agriculturally zoned property, which you alluded to some, Jan, and I guess I just want to specify a couple of things and get specific information. So, and this is agriculturally zoned property.
It is agriculturally zoned, yes.
Okay, which I live in agriculturally zoned property, so I mean, very familiar with that. But in our ordinance, which I wasn't around when this was written, but I mean, being, I guess, the new guy on the block here, but what I'm reading for agricultural, and then I'll get into special events in just a minute, but it says agriculture is to preserve the open character of certain land, blah, 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 which does not require extensive public facilities and services. That's a basic fundamental statement. Now we can get into debate, I guess, as far as what extensive public facilities and services means. But in the special events facility part of the ordinance, it says such facility includes privately owned properties which have existing agricultural structures, and defines that. And then it says where such special events may take place, and that can be maintained as or converted back to agricultural structures or areas. So maintained or converted back, I mean, help me out here. You can read that a couple different ways, as I guess the applicant might construe it, of we can have a commercial operation, charge $9,000 a night, have 150 people there, do whatever to the roads or whatever, it doesn't matter. We can do that for 15 years, and then we can convert it back to an agricultural structure. Is that what this means, or does it mean that it is an agricultural structure and it can be maintained and converted back after that weekend and used again for storing hay or tractors or agricultural purposes? In other words, does it mean converted back after a period of years as a commercial type operation where we're charging, you know, as a commercial venue?
Wow, Ernie.
Difficult question.
I was here in the beginning, so let me, go ahead.
I've got the
Commissioner
same
Fuller.
question, but I think I can probably ask it. Do you have to move equipment out of the way to have this, that's what I'm looking at. A barn is something that's got equipment, it's got livestock, because I own a barn, and it's got that. And if we did something like that at my place, I'd have to move equipment out of the barn. So that's kind of is that where you're going with this?
Oh, yeah, in other words, so I'll make a basic statement here. I am, as you know, I was totally opposed to when community development brought up the home-based business draft ordinances. I was totally against that because I want government out of the way of people's business, and they should operate their business as they see fit, and they should operate, and what property they own is theirs to do with what they like. And that holds true for a long time until there's complaints from the other side. And I've gotten a lot of complaints from the other side, and then you get into a situation of, oops, now what does government do to provide that adequate balance or to protect the other part of the equation? And we're between a rock and a hard place here, but living in an agricultural district all my life, I guess I can see where I would not want a commercial type, 150, 600 people, $9,000 a night or whatever it is. I mean, operation there, no matter what the noise is or whatever. I mean, it just doesn't seem to me that a routine renting out of one facility, two facilities, three facilities is in line with agriculture or special events in an agricultural setting.
And I think you just answered your question. In the beginning, when this all started, there was one applicant that had a barn. And it was one of those older, rustic, maybe several years old. And the people liked the patina on the barn. So they wanted to start having weddings there. But it wasn't an allowed use in the ordinance. And when that started, we were still in the later stages of the Great Recession. And the local farmers at that time were seeking other avenues for financial income to their farms. It's also the same time when Luke Bryan was doing the farm tours. I think that, they was doing outside concerts at the V-Plex. There was a lot of things going on at that time, and I think at that time the commissioners was trying to answer a small niche, and there was a huge push, and as we all know, Carroll County is pro-ag. The commission at that time was pro-ag, and they were trying to assist local farmers on their farms with additional revenue. Since that time, as y'all know, we have had, of those 19 venues, we've had several that have got to the size that it exceeded local and had to go to the state fire marshal. So that is of those. And I think that's kind of where you're going is where we started, where we've kind of been in the middle, and then this is where you are tonight, struggling with this question. That's how it got started. It was an old barn, and it had the patina and had the rustic look on it, and they wanted to have them, so the board created this as an avenue for them to get there. Since that time, I think the board and the district commissioners have been hearing feedback from those adjoining property owners as to how that's working out in their district. And I don't know as well as you do because they don't always call me, but I do know they always call their district commissioner to let them know. And I'm familiar with, there's more than one in your district that we do receive a lot of complaints on. So, and I know what you're getting at. So, and that is a true statement. So we do have some in your district that we have received complaints on, but that's kind of how we got here, is it started off with the best intentions in the world. Now, some applicants took that and took the code and expanded it to a point that they built a venue large enough that it had to go to the state fire marshal for state fire inspections. That's also true.
Okay. And it's my understanding that we've also got some complaints over several months recently from actual commercial operations where this type of venue is taxed at an agricultural base. In other words, you can have your cake and eat it too, basically, because you're taxed at the property value of agriculture. It's not a commercial tax rate, and yet we're getting complaints from the commercial side that has to pay more because these type of venues are operating the same type facilities.
We have.
Okay.
If there's
Quick
no,
one. Oh, yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Of course. It's, Ben, don't go away. Just to clarify something.
Okay.
The original intent of this ordinance was to allow a farmer whose primary source of income was agriculture to supplement the income that he was making by allowing a wedding or a graduation party or something of that sort periodically. Am I correct?
The very first applicant, that is exactly what was occurring. So
Okay.
just to go straight to the point, the very first applicant that the county had a pole Hereford farm.
Okay, but have we drifted from that?
Well, I think that's up for debate. You know, each side has got an opinion on that, so.
Okay. Ms. Nally? Is this a working farm? Real simple.
We do cut hay on this property 3 times a year.
Okay. But, and that's just cut hay?
Cut hay to-
There's no livestock, there's no
We have
other
no
crop.
livestock on that property because our oldest is highly allergic to the dander from horses, dogs, cows, rabbits. So we do have those cows are ours, and we keep those a half a mile up the road on 16 acres that we also have there.
Okay. All right, well, but back to just this piece of property.
Yes.
Is the primary purpose on just this piece of property, is it a farm? Or
We
is
do
it a
use it
venue?
for farming.
Or is it a venue?
No, I wouldn't say we use it for a venue because it's not used every single day and every single weekend. If you look at the number of days in the year, it's used 5 to 10% of the time.
Okay, where is the bulk of the income coming from?
The bulk of the income comes from the hay and our 2 jobs that we both work. This is not our primary job. We both work full-time jobs. The venue is just something
Okay,
we
wait,
do on the
I'm
side.
I was taking the jobs out. What I'm trying to get at here, are you making more money off of the hay or are you making more money off the venue?
We get about 4,500 bales of hay off of this property in a year, which of course provides for these 50 cattle that we have.
Okay.
If we move those, what started out at 20 cattle now to 50 cattle back to this 16 acre tract, you know, we're growing. We got a family that we're trying to introduce into the farming industry, right? We started with 23 years ago, and now we got 50. I can't put those 50 cattle on this 16 acres because the math don't work.
I understand that.
So we just spent $4,500 in fertilization for this 16 acre tract and 5 acres behind our house, which is tied into this, to provide for these 50 cows. That extra income from that hay that is left over, this is our first year for this, of course, because the previous owner, the same person, cut this hay 3 times a year, and the same person will cut this hay starting, you know, when it's time to cut. The supplement from this leftover from this hay that's not provided to these 50 cattle helps us provide for fencing all of the costs that we've got with the other farming properties that we have. So yes, I would say that a majority of this 16 acres is agricultural, used for agricultural, then if we want to call it commercial. I won't go into the commercial side of it because that wasn't your question,
Right.
but yes.
Yeah. No, yeah. Okay.
Commissioners, if there's no further question, I'll look for a motion in a second.
I make a motion to deny.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to deny the applicant's request. Any further discussion or any further questions for staff or the applicant? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of denying the application, please raise your hands. Any opposed?
The motion to deny was carried 6-0.
Thank you. We'll now move into the consent agenda. Items under this action were discussed at the public work session on Thursday, April 28th, which is now available for view on the Carroll County GA website. It will be presented as a consideration of one single item, and only one vote will be taken. 10.1, Public Works Equipment Purchase. 10.2, Buffalo Creek Technology Park Seal Coat. 10.3, Oak Shade Road Abandonment. 10.4, a Public Works position of 2 full-time light equipment operators. 10.5, a Parks position, consideration to create 1 full-time administrative assistant for McIntosh Park. 10.6, animal shelter fence. If I could have a motion and a second to approve these items.
Motion to approve.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to approve these items. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries 7-0.
Great. We will now move into the financial session. 11.1 is a notice to the Commission of the advertisement of the proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 Carroll County budget and the public hearing and adoption dates. To meet the timeline of the June 7th, 2022 vote on the proposed budget, according to the county's enabling legislation, I am to publish the proposed budget along with the public notices required by OCGA 36-81-5E in the legal organ of Carroll County in an advertisement which must run by Tuesday, May 10th, 2022 to allow for public hearing on June 2nd, 2022 at 10 a.m. Therefore, I, as chairman, and to follow the county enabling legislation, am submitting to the board, not later than this regular May meeting, the estimated revenue for the upcoming year and a proposed balanced budget governing the expenditures of all funds expected to be available to the county for the upcoming year. I'm also including the proposed expenditures for capital outlay and public works. The finance director and myself reviewed the information relating to the financial affairs of the county, which is relevant to establishing the annual budget at the April 20th, 2022 budget work session. This is a balanced budget, but does not include the items and corresponding expenditures will be discussed at the budget work session tomorrow morning, Wednesday, May 4th at 9 a.m. Again, this is not a perfect budget, but it is based on discussions from previous work sessions of items, concerns, and issues that district commissioners have mentioned during these past work sessions. At this time, there is to be no action taken on this item. I will remind you, though, to please bring your budgets back with you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We will now move into the business session. 12.1, the City of Villa Rica Tax Allocation District. It's a consideration of an intergovernmental agreement between Carroll County and the City of Villa Rica relating to the East Side Tax Allocation District. And I will turn the meeting over to District Commissioner 2, Clint Chance.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would like, if everyone could indulge me, I know this has been a lengthy meeting, but I think it's very important to go through some details about the TAD that has been presented by the City of Villa Rica. To give a little bit of history, just personally myself, I've lived in Villa Rica, was raised in that area. I probably attended city council meetings for 20 years. The original conversation that was discussed was after Mirror Lake was built, how do we bring those residents, their revenues that they spend, how do we bring them into the downtown area to continue to make downtown a vital community or build it up? That was discussed originally through a trail, discussed originally possibly through a golf cart path, and then it updated to possibly a road. And then I think from there it pretty much went to the presentation that has been presented to us Thursday at the work session, along with other communications and presentations that we've had in the last few months. I would like to say when I first heard of this particular proposal, I did have some concerns initially, not necessarily about the intent of the TAD to bring in managed or controlled growth, but what did it look like from a lot of different perspectives of how it could have an impact on services that are provided to the City of Villa Rica. Those would include fire, those would include 911 dispatch, animal control, emergency management. They would include our court systems, magistrate, state, superior court, and simply the traffic flow coming into the city and what would spill out. Currently, I think the city of Villarica has about 20-something projects that they have approved that could come up out of the ground, so to speak, this year or as we move forward outside of the TAD. So that was my original concerns. It did not mean that I was against the project, nor was I for it. I had been asked, I cannot tell you how many times, Clint, what is your position on this particular item? And I have stated unequivocally and with a true conscience that I was still debating. I had not made a decision because there was so much information to sit and culminate through to see where would we reach, what decision would we reach moving forward. There's been presentations from the city of Villarica. I know we have had some individual conversations. Some of the commissioners have met with Mayor McDougal and the city manager, Mr. Barber, and some of their support staff in Villarica. I know I have met with them several times in the last few months. Originally, they sent over an intergovernmental agreement to Carroll County for us to consider. And for those that may be listening at home, maybe you've heard or read up on a tax allocation district or what that means, but it's simply you take an area, we've not seen many of these in the West Georgia community, if any, but you have seen several of these in the state, where you take an area that typically is not, has a lot of challenges to develop that particular area. And it's a way to divert taxes to help pay for infrastructure. So the current amount that we would receive on the properties that are in question, that particular tax base we would continue to receive. Anything that they approve there, commercial from retail space, grocery stores, whatever that would be, that sales tax revenue would be generated from day one to the portion allotment for Carroll County. So just for those that may wonder what is the TAD, it's essentially giving up the incremental increase and the increased property value to go towards improving the infrastructure in that area. The builders and so forth that would come in to build in this particular property, they would pay their fair share of taxes. They themselves are not the ones that would be getting the break. One thing that I have learned being here for 4 years is you represent the people that send us here, but you inadvertently represent all of Carroll County. And with that said, my colleagues come from a lot of different areas. We have a very diverse community in Carroll County, 1,100 miles of roads, 505 square miles. We have some areas that are completely farming and agriculture, and we have other areas that are complete city life and continuing to grow. I know Villarica is going to continue to grow. The community that I have known in the past, I know is going to continue to change over time. It's located right off of Interstate 20. The economy has been good. There continues to be growth, and that's going to be expected. My concern has been how much of that can spill out over into the unincorporated areas. I've received some calls, some people that want me to support this. I have received some calls, people that have concerns about this or simply want to know more about how this would operate. And so back to my point about representing all of Carroll County, I respect every one of my colleagues here. We disagree or vote differently on certain items, but I think we all have a mutual respect for each other, that we represent our constituents, and each one of those districts may have different niches or things that they're known for. I represent the people in Villarica, but by virtue in the incorporated areas, those people are first represented by a mayor and city council. And I respect that chain of command. That does not mean that when they come to the county and ask for something that we automatically do it or that we're automatically obligated, but I do feel in representing the people, I also have to represent their first point of elected leadership, which is city officials. The city officials have unanimously passed an intergovernmental agreement to send to Carroll County showing their support that they wish to enact the TAD, what I'm referring to as the East Side TAD. What I have done, this has been very fluid, especially in the last few weeks and the last few days. I have spoken with some of my colleagues here. I have spoken with legal counsel. I have spoken with city representatives. And what I feel that would be prudent to do would be to send an intergovernmental agreement draft version from Carroll County back to the city of Villa Rica that would address not only my personal concerns as the representative, but some of those concerns from my colleagues, general statements that they have made in some of the conversations that I've had with them. So you have before you a draft of an intergovernmental agreement that has just been created just here in the basically today, was finalized today, and that was sent to you, and I know that some of you have had an opportunity hopefully to read through that. I'm not going to hit all the points that are in that intergovernmental agreement, but I do want to hit several things that I believe are important for those out there listening, that I think represents all of Carroll County, or the things that we are responsible for handling here. The first item is the terms being proposed by Carroll County would limit the bond time frame to 10 years. So state statute states that you can carry these out up to 50 years. I have heard the mayor and some other elected officials state that their best guesstimates, and they've done the best they can, they have not done a TAD before obviously, but that they believe that that could be paid off, those bonds for the infrastructure, the main roadway connecting Shoreline Parkway into downtown Villa Rica, that could be accomplished hopefully within 10 years, maybe sooner, maybe more, but they're hoping for 10 years. So I'm proposing that we list a specific requirement there that we would only be willing to be involved in this project for 10 years. The next is that we would restrict any additional TADs during the duration of the east side TAD. So while this is operating, if you will, until that is paid off, whether it's paid off early or not, we would see how does this work for the city? How does it work for Carroll County? How does it work for the residents? And make sure that we get through the time period to see the benefits or the challenges that were presented before another one would be approved. The next is that we would provide pilot payments, or that the city would provide pilot payments, and that stands for payments in lieu of taxes, back to Carroll County over a 10-year period. I am proposing the first 2 years would have no payments, because obviously if this was approved, you would have to have time to build and put these retail infrastructure in place, whether it's restaurants or whether it's grocery stores or whatever the infrastructure is going to be there from the retail side. The next thing is, and I think this is probably one of the most important pieces, is I know the city has stressed to us that they want to grow responsibly, and they want to grow within their means, even though they know they're going to grow. How can we manage and do this the best of our ability? I know Carroll County has a lot of concerns from unincorporated residents that do not want to be annexed into the city. So I would ask, and am proposing in this intergovernmental agreement, that we ask the city of Villa Rica that they would agree not to annex in any unincorporated areas of Carroll County into the city limits during the duration of this particular TAD. There are some other points that are in the intergovernmental agreement proposal here with you tonight. I don't want to go through and read them all. You can read through that. I do want to stress that the document does read, and I am proposing that this would simply be an approval this evening to send back some of the highlights of the concerns or things that we feel would protect Carroll County and the unincorporated residents that have concerns, and also the interest of the services that we would have to provide. I do want to make one particular comment about the new fire station, just to take that one particular item. Many of you know we are building a new fire station in Villa Rica that is centered off of Highway 78, that is at the old Georgia State Patrol building. There has been a lot of activity in that particular area. There are wrecks many times in front of Walmart at the red light. There are wrecks that have subsided a good bit, but there are wrecks a lot on I-20. We obviously have the high school nearby. We have the industrial park, a lot of retail up and down 61. We've got maximum density approvals that was approved for new construction of homes back behind the Social Security office. That was property that had been sold recently, and the city approved for new dwellings to be built in there. So we've got a lot of activity going on there. So I want to stress the point that one of my concerns could be We do not know what impact it might have at this point in time, but if there was a lot of building in the east side TAD or on the other side of downtown, we might could build 20 bays. Right now, we're proposing 3 bays that are double deep for the new fire station. You might could build 20 bays, and that equipment might not could get to the other side of town in time if there was a fire. I'm not saying that's the issue. I'm just saying if you bring in this many people, thousands of new people, if you have a wreck on 20 and you have congestion running down Bankhead Highway 78 highway, could that be a hazard? So that's something we would have to monitor, put more thought and research into. That would be one reason why we would be asking for the pilot payments. But I also want to make the point, I am not a fire professional. I am not a consultant. So I am not sitting here speaking as an expert that is what would have to happen. But I just want to stress the point, safety personnel has to be able to get to certain areas within a certain amount of time, especially as it relates to fire. And that's why a lot of times as you see cities continue to grow, you have a lot of different fire stations at different points or different areas of the municipalities, and they don't have just one gigantic one that tries to service everywhere. It would be my hope that the board would want to show out of good faith that we are willing to work with Villa Rica. We have always done good by Villa Rica. The chairman and the Board of Commissioners have always been very supportive. The chairman has always directed staff, Public Works, to give you an example, we went in and paved going into the new post office, a stretch of area there that was like running through a landmine to get into the post office. And so we basically did that for cost to the city of Villa Rica, saved them a good bit of money. We're able to do that in a timely fashion. So there's a lot of examples where Carroll County has stepped forward and tried to be a very good partner with the city of Villa Rica. I know I've tried my level best to represent them well. And as I've stated before, half of my constituent base is located inside the city limits, and half my constituent base is located in unincorporated Carroll County. So I have a lot of balance there, a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts that I have to take into consideration when I look at supporting things. So before you this evening, you have an intergovernmental agreement draft that I have worked on with our legal counsel, and I appreciate the legal counsel. I appreciate Chairman Morgan, and I appreciate each one of the commissioners that have given some general thoughts. While all of you may not have been involved in the actual process of creating this, you actually have by giving some feedback and taking this under consideration. I will not make a motion at this time, Chairman, unless you would like me to do that first, but I did want to say, preface it, that this is simply a request to send our wishes, of our concerns, of how we would like to see an intergovernmental agreement back to the city of Villa Rica. This is not a binding document tonight. You would not be voting on a binding document. You would simply be voting out of good faith to see where the negotiations could land if you choose to do so and send this forward to the city.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Commissioner Chance or for the attorney Avery or Stacy that's here? Also, the mayor of Villa Rica and the city manager are both here. So if there's any questions, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any.
I've got a couple, Clint. I don't know, Clint or Avery, I know, I very much, Commissioner Chance, admire your work on this. I think it's admirable work, and I know you've put a lot of effort into it. And I feel for you in your position, and I think if it was a city in my community, I would feel the weight of this. I do wonder, I know the document does these pilot payments, but are there penalties of some sort to address if this is not complied with or we don't receive such payments? Are there penalties, in other words, that would incentivize the city of Villa Rica to comply?
This letter of intent came from the Hutton Law Firm, and so it just has the very basic minimum terms, but they did have in here that if there's if over a 2-year period, a certain dollar amount is not paid as promised, then that would be a material breach, and I assume the final agreement would have what the consequences would be for failure to make those payments. So we can get with the law firm that specializes in this area and find out for you.
Okay, because, I mean, I kind of view it as a, speed limit sign, thou shalt not exceed 55, but if you go 92 and there are no penalties, then the 55 is rather meaningless.
Right.
So, okay. I view this overall, and for my constituents' sake, I guess I am still and remain reflective of their wishes, and yes, I know we have to act for the good of the entire county, and that is what I intend to do. I do have to consider, though I am here as a representative of my constituents first and foremost, and it seems to me like overall the whole premise of this is that Villa Rica has not come to us with any flavor of they will pay X amount, and if you would please consider county helping us and fund Y amount. They, by their own brochure, say that we need the growth in order to address our water and sewer infrastructure needs. And further, the brochure says without the TAD, we will need to pursue as many residential units as possible in order to pay for the infrastructure needs. To me, that means this entire TAD project is could be summarized by saying Villa Rica saying, oops, we've got into a financial bind, and now county pay up, because if you don't, we'll pursue as many residential units as possible so we can get ourselves out of the rut. To me, that's similar to an unfunded mandate, which I think all of us get up in arms about if the state requires us to buy new election equipment or spend money storing it in certain ways or buying certain types of paper or whatever the state might do or the federal government might do. We get all bent out of shape about unfunded mandates, but here in this situation, to me, this is similar to a city within our own county providing us with an unfunded mandate and threatening basically to say we'll do what we have to do to get the money because we need the money and we got in a financial pickle, and we're not really asking you, we're demanding that you fund this, which kind of goes against my grain, because we have other cities for the good of Carroll County. We have other cities to keep in mind. It is rather unfair, much like I guess a dad and mom with 6 kids. If one kid hogs all the donuts, they need to look out for the other 5 kids and make sure that they get their fair share of the soup or the dessert or whatever. But Villa Rica doesn't seem to care about that as long as they get their way with the funding that they need, because they got in trouble with the water and sewer infrastructure costs. So this seems like it takes money away from my district as well as other districts in the county, as well as other cities of Temple or Hoytsburg or Bowden or Mount Zion or the southern part of Bremen or whatever, and we are forced to pour it into Villa Rica because of the situation they've gotten into. So I'm, I guess, a little bit opposed to that. The other thing that, the old saying of we can't legislate morality. In other words, you can address certain financial things in a document like this, and you can put certain penalties in place and so on, but it is impossible to accomplish one thing in a document like this that my constituents have adamantly and repeatedly told me that they do not want, and that is the referred to halo effect of such a TAD. The District 5 residents, my constituents, do not want that. They don't want, as they repeatedly tell me, Douglas County influences and coming into Carroll County. We're trying to keep out those type of things repeatedly, and including huge subdivisions and so on, like Wolf Creek and that kind of thing that we've been through before. So this is not going to bring any positive thing for my constituents in here. The other thing is that last time in the work session, it kind of rubs me the wrong way that I brought up numerous times, at least 2 or 3 times I would say, to the Villa Rica mayor. I asked if they feel that there will be no significant cost to the county. Would they contractually agree to sign a document that says if there perchance happens to be some cost to the county, then would they agree to cover that, since they're so sure that there would not be? And there was, repeated refusal, or at least they did not agree to such a contractual arrangement. So I feel like all of their hot air about don't worry, be happy, the county, don't worry about it, be happy, because you won't be obligated to any financial burden, is rather a moot point and meaningless, just a wasted breath on their part, because they don't agree to substantiate their own statements. That's all I have.
Commissioners, you have a City of Villa Rica IGA TAD PDF that was sent to you late this afternoon. It's also included on the agenda for this evening. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement draft presented by Carroll County, and that it be submitted to the City of Villa Rica as a good faith measure to negotiate and explore what common ground might exist, with the understanding that any final document revision would come back before the Board of Commissioners for a final approval, if applicable.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I have a question. I just want to clarify this for the folks in the 4th District, because Commissioner Chance, the original intergovernmental agreement as it was written, haven't talked to a single person in District 4 that agreed with that. And I just want to clarify this, that this is a counter offer. It is not binding. We are sending this to the City of Villa Rica for them to look at, and if they agree with it, it will still come back to us for a final vote.
Yes, Commissioner Fuller, that's correct, but I'll also let legal counsel confirm.
Yes, sir, that is correct. It's on page 2. It says that it's just to authorize negotiation, and that any final agreement would come back to you for your approval.
Okay.
I will, if I could also say, like I've said, Commissioner Chance, hats off to you for your efforts. If I do not vote for this, it is not because I feel the document is amiss or you've done a poor job. It is simply because I feel sometimes government has to operate with simple standards, and my simple standard is that this is not a good thing overall for Carroll County, this being the TAD, and certainly not a thing that my constituents want me to move forward with. So for that reason, if I vote against it, that's why I'm doing it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion or questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving this draft, I've lost my thought process on this one. The draft IGA we would like to send back in good faith to the City of Villa Rica. All those in favor? Any opposed?
The motion carries 5-2.
Great. Thank you. And I know while we were very excited to celebrate Carrollton City Schools debate team last night, this is one of the most exciting things right this moment for all of us. 12.2 is an RFQ for an architect for the county administration building. We had 2 proposals on Thursday. We had lots of documents to read and review. At this time, I will look for a motion and a second to accept one of the proposed architect firms.
I make a motion that Jericho Design Group be retained for architectural services for the new county admin facility, with the contract particulars, including fee structures, to be negotiated by the chairman.
Second
that.
Great, I have a motion and a seconds. Is there any further conversation, comments, discussion?
Madam Chairman, I would like to make a few points. I thought, first of all, I did want to thank the consultant that you hired, Mr. Theron Gay. He continues to do a good job bringing his expertise to the table, and thank you for all the county employees that worked on the particular project, and some of our constitutional officers and other elected officials. Thank you so much for being on that committee. I thought both of the firms would do an excellent job. At the end of the day, the RLR architect did a good job, but I did feel like they spent a little too much time only showing past projects that they had done. I would like to have heard a little bit more about what they would actually do during the design phase. Not that they didn't cover that, but I felt like it was not balanced. The other concern I had when I asked the question that contractors many times can state that architects can design things wonderful on paper, but it's not always buildable, if you will. It may have just been a misspeak on behalf of the representative, but they stated, well, they really didn't know because they weren't in the field every day. And that's just simply not a good answer. Architects, anytime there's an issue with something from an architectural design standpoint, contractors reach out to the architect. They come out to check things or give them an alternate of something they can build. Also, architects come out into the field, certainly not every day, but they come out a good bit, and they sit and go through or walk through the facility to make sure it's being built to their standards. Jericho, I thought, did an excellent job in the explanation of their design phase and the technical aspects with regards to the software used. They talked about how they were able to retain our notes, put them into a system to make sure they weren't skipping things during the design phase. I thought that was a very great technical expertise presentation. I liked that they really had a large team that was present. There was multiple people here, including the owner, that I thought did an extremely good job of explaining things. I also feel that they were sincerely eager to earn the business. Not that RLR didn't show that they wanted the business, but I thought there was more of a genuine eagerness to earn the business from Jericho. Also, I like several of the creative aspects. It's my understanding that the firms were not really given a lot of direction. They just said, come up with some general ideas of what you might present. And so they presented several different things, one of those being a drive-through. I don't know, what particular department that could possibly serve, but it just seems like they went above and beyond to show some different aspects of what the design might look like. So I did want to give a little bit of reasoning of why I made the motion for Jericho. Thank you, Madam Chair.
If there's not any further comments or questions, I will ask for the vote. All those in favor of Jericho for our professional design services for the new county admin building? Any opposed?
Motion carries 7-0.
Great, thank you. I'm very excited we're moving forward on this. At this time, we'll move into executive session. We will not have any decisions or votes made when we adjourn, so this time we will no longer be recording. And I'm going to ask the commissioners, as much as you would like to probably socialize with those left, if we can move straight downstairs to discuss real estate, personnel, and litigation.
And we need a
Oh, excuse me, I do. I need a motion for that.
Yeah, I make a motion to move out of regular session and convene into executive session.
Second. Okay, great. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries
Great.
7-0.
Thank you.